Hello, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial with psdbox.com. Today I have another manipulation tutorial for you, and right now I'm on my website, and this is the end result of today's tutorial. So this is what we will be doing. These are the stock images that I used. You have all the links here, so you can download all the stock images that I used to make this. So let's head back to Photoshop and start working on this. And we will start with this image, so I'll go ahead and open it in Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop CS5, but you can do this in Photoshop CS3, or I think maybe even in Photoshop Elements. So once you have this image opened, I'll press Alt and double click on the layer to unlock it. And the first thing we'll need to do is get rid of this sky, because we will replace it. But before I do that, I want to make the image a bit smaller because I'm recording the video, so I'll use a smaller canvas size. Now, in order to get rid of the sky, I'll use a layer mask and use the quick selection tool to select it. So I'll zoom out a bit and select the sky just like that. Now we still have to touch up some of the areas here. By the way, I'm pressing the Alt key to subtract the areas that I don't want to be selected. Like that. And let's exclude this area as well. So just refining the selection. And let's use the magic wand tool as well to select this part here, and with the magic wand actually it deselected the rest of the selection because I forgot to press the shift key. So let me go back on the history. Now I have this here and I want to use the magic wand tool, but I already have this selection, so what I have to do is press the shift key to add this to the selection without deselecting this area. So press shift, click, and I added this area to the selection. And now I'll go back to the quick selection tool and retouch parts that I exclude and include areas that I want using the Alt key. Okay, more or less something like that. I would spend a bit more time working on this hose or whatever this thing is. I guess this is the oxygen hose or something like that, but I will use a smaller brush size for this quick selection tool to retouch this area here and include this part here as well. Okay, that's my selection. It's a really quick selection that I did. Maybe I would spend a bit more time refining it, but you'll have plenty of time to do that yourself. I'm just trying to show you how I did that. Let's exclude this area as well. Okay, once you have the selection like this, you can fill it with black so that now we have the sky that's gone. And after making the mask, right click on it and choose Apply Layer Mask. And now you can open the sky image. You can use any sky that you want, but I use this cloudy one. So I'll make it bigger to fit my image here. Let me see if I flip it horizontal, maybe it looks better. Well, no. The brighter part of the sky is this one, and the light, as you can see on the man, the light is coming from that part, so you have to match that as close as you can. Lighting is very important in any manipulation, and I have several tutorials on that. So once you have the sky, we still have to blend these parts here. So go back to this layer, let's call this main, because this is the main image, and create another layer mask for it. And now you have to use the gradient tool. Make sure you select black to white, select the layer mask, and then select the linear type. And I don't know if I have to reverse it or not, I'll see. And what I want to do is blend this horizon here with the sky. So what I will do is zoom in just a bit, click here and drag up, and I have to inverse the gradient, so I'll do it again, click here and drag up, and that way that's how I blend this horizon. Don't make the gradient too big because it will not look too nice, so make it small like that. And now get the brush tool, set it to white, and paint back the man on the image, just like that. Be careful with these areas here. Switch back to the black color and mask that out. And of course you can use the brush tool to refine this edge here if you want, or if you don't want to use the gradient tool, use the brush tool. But I liked how the gradient worked for me. You can use a soft brush and just blend the horizon there, just like that. So once you have the background ready, well, make sure you blend the hair as well. I'll use a lower opacity, and I will use this brush here and just remove some of those highlights there. And of course you can also use the refine edge to refine the edges here if you want to, but that's just it's really easy to do that, so I'm not gonna spend time doing that. Next, you can add that dead tree. This is an image that I took myself, and it took me about half an hour to extract it, and I offer it as a free. I offer it for free as a PNG file, so you don't have to cut it. You can download that from this image from my website. So let me close that and paste that tree there. I think I shifted horizontally, I don't remember. Let me see how it looks. Well, leave it like that, because as you can see the shadows are going that way, and I said that the light is coming from here, so that makes sense. So leave it as it is, just make it smaller if you need to. Make it just a bit bigger. And let me take a look at the final image to see more or less how I place that. Okay, something like that. I'll make it a bit bigger. And slightly bigger. Okay, so something like that. And I'll call this tree. And I'll create a layer mask for it, because I need to blend the bottom part here. So I'll use a technique that I used in my previous tutorials, which is using the grass brush. So I'll select this grass brush, I'll make it smaller, something like that, and it's important that you set both colors to black, the foreground and the background color, because this brush has a dynamics color activated, so you either deactivate this or set both color to black and just paint. But first create the layer mask and make sure the brush opacity is set to 100%, and just blend like that. And now it looks like the tree is growing from that grass there. The next thing that I did in order to make the tree blend with the surrounding, with the background here, is desaturate it a bit. So I created a hue saturation adjustment as a clipping mask. So right click and select create clipping mask, and now I set saturation to -35. So that way it takes away some of that, some of the color here. And then more adjustments. I use the photo filter, set the density to 25%, and choose the preset orange and set the blend mode to darken. And you can see it adds a bit of an orange tint to the image. And next I started working on the lighting. I wanted to have this part here a bit brighter. So what I did is I used the lighting effects filter, but I wanted to use that non-destructively. So what I did is create a new layer, fill it with white, and apply the filter on that, and then set the blend mode to overlay. But that's a bit maybe complicated for some people. You can see that technique here on the text, on step 7 on the text tutorial. But what I'll do in this case is create a stamp. So I'll press Shift, Control, Alt, and E to create a stamp of all the visible layers on a new layer, and let's name this Global Light. And I'll turn this into a smart object just in case I want to change the setting of the filter later on. So now I'll go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects. And that way I can see from here where the light is. A lot better than using the other technique. So let's see, set the intensity to about 13. And let's see a preview before and after. You can see it adds that vignetting effect that I like. The change has to be really small. You don't have to make something too dramatic. And let's increase the contrast here. And I'll increase the ambience to 10 and reduce the gloss, because the highlights here on the sky are too bright. So by reducing the glossiness, gloss amount, you can take away some of that, some of those highlights. And click OK. Let's see how it looks. Well, I like how it looks, but it's a bit too dark, so that's why I used a smart object, because now I can double click here and go back to the settings of the filter. And let's see, I will increase the exposure to 2 maybe. Let's see how it looks. And the ambience to 11. Now we should have a brighter image. Yeah, but it's still, as you can see, the highlights here are really burnt, so I don't like that. I'll decrease the gloss even more and increase the ambience, and maybe set the exposure to 0 and click OK. Now let's see. Well, anyways, we can use levels later on to bring some of that light back, but the important thing is that I have some shadow here and more light here on this right side. Next thing that I did is add the crows here, and luckily for me these are PNG file, I don't have to extract. So just copy them and place them wherever you want. I don't even remember where I put them, so let me check that. Okay, this one was, yeah, right there. I'll make it smaller. If you're not sure how small to make, always make sure you make them a bit bigger, because you can always make them smaller without losing quality. But if you make them too small and then you scale them up, you lose quality. And I'll create a group which I'll name crows, because I will add shadows for this. So I'll name this crow 1 and create a new layer and name it crow 1 shadow. Get the brush tool, use a soft brush, a small soft brush, and just paint some shadows under it. But make sure you reduce the opacity to about 30% and the flow as well, and just paint a few shadows under it, under the feet of the shadow, of the crow, sorry. That's horrible. Let me try again. reduce the opacity even more, make the brush a bit bigger. Okay, that's a bit better. So you can skip the shadows part if you want to, but I always like to add shadows. And let's add another one. So again, copy and make it smaller again and place it there. So let's see if they should be more or less the same size, so yeah, that's okay. And let's create some shadows for this one as well. Actually, you can paint the shadows on the same layer, as long as you know you will not move the layer. Let's paint some shadow here as well on this branch. Okay, so that's the shadow there. Now let's add the last crow. This one, the author says is a cutout, but it's not. This is a JPEG, and it doesn't have the paths there, so you'll have to use the magic wand. It's really quick to extract this. So that, create a layer mask, have to invert it, and right click and apply it, and just copy this and paste it on my canvas, and I'll name this Crow 3, and of course I have to make it smaller. If you want to get rid of this highlights on the edges, there's a trick you can use. Of course you can use refine edge, but there's a quicker way of doing that, and I'll show you a nice trick, which is using layer styles. So go to stroke and apply a 1 pixel stroke, or 2 depending on how big those highlights are, and choose a sample a color from the crow, or just select a color by just looking at it, and try blend modes. Let's see, multiply, and then just play with the intensity of the color. Click OK. Now you fix those edges. So take a look before and after. So that's a really quick way of fixing that. Another way of doing it is to load the selection of the crow. So press Ctrl and click on the thumbnail. So to select the edges, and go to select, modify, and select contract, and select, I don't know, 1 or 2 pixels. 1 will be okay. Click OK, and now click on the layer mask icon, and that way you masked 1 pixel, and maybe this one looks a bit better than the stroke effect. So that's how you add those crows. Remember, I have them on, as you can see, I have them on this group, because now I can close that group and I have a lot more room here on the palette. The next thing I did is my dodge and burn technique. I have I think I have at least 2 tutorials about this, so please don't ask me to make tutorials about this, because I already explained how I made that action, why I use dodge and burn. So just if you're watching this from YouTube, so use the search box on my channel, or from the website, use the search box and you'll find, just search for dodge and burn and you'll find tutorials about that. And what I want to do is enhance the highlights here on these tracks, and I'm using 16% exposure. Make the brush smaller and just brush here on the tracks, because I want to create that effect that the light is coming from here, and I want to have that part brighter. So just dodge the tracks, and of course on the man, dodge everything, all these folds here, this takes a bit of time, but I just like this technique. I like the results. So I'll spend a few minutes here dodging and burning. Even though I'll make it a bit quick, I'll spend a few minutes here. So as you can see, I'm dodging the highlights. And as you can see, I just moved slightly that layer, so I will lock the position there with this icon. And now I cannot move it. I get this error message, but I can still use the dodge and burn layer tool on it, sorry. And I'll continue to dodge the highlights. I didn't use the burn tool yet. I'm still with the dodge tool. And I'll increase the exposure just a bit. Keep dodging here. And when I'm done with this tool, I'll show you a before and after to see the effect that you get with this tool. I really like it. And just if you practice a bit and take your time, you can get some really nice effects with it. So let's keep dodging this false here. I'm trying to do this fairly fast because I don't want to keep you watching me how I dodge and burn here, but I do want to show you the effect that you get, so that's why I'm spending a few minutes here. Obviously you can dodge the sky parts of it and also burn the shadows there, but I prefer to show you that here on this man. Okay, let's go with the burn tool. Increase the exposure to about 15%. It's too strong. Let's go down to 10 or so. And now go, oh, you can see it's still too strong. Let's go down to 5%. And burn the shadows and the midtones. And as you can see, I'm not burning, I'm avoiding the areas that I just dodged. I'm just burning the shadows and parts that are darker. And with this tool you can almost reshape objects, and you can get some really nice results. You'll see in a second. If you want to switch to the dodge tool without changing the tool, you can press the Alt key and you will use the dodge tool instead. You can see that here on the history. If I press the Alt key and I paint, you can see that I use the dodge tool. And when I let go the Alt key, I go back to the burn tool. So that's a really quick way of switching tools. Okay, let's see a before and after now. So that was before and after. And you can see that effect, especially here on this bag here. And if you want a stronger effect, just duplicate the layer, and you can see that effect here. Obviously I did this really quick, and I didn't go on the tree here, but you can take your time and burn here on this part of the tree and dodge the highlights here. So you can, and also here on the crow. So you can get some really nice results if you take your time. This is the part where I spend most of the time, just dodging and burning. And when you're done with that, when you're satisfied with what you get, you can move on and make the final adjustments. And I used a photo filter, and I chose the preset, this one, and set the density to 25%, so I'll leave that there. Let's see if preserve luminosity works. I don't like how it burns those highlights there, so disable preserve luminosity and leave the blend mode to normal at 100%. And you can see that we have that orange look to the image. We have to make the final light adjustments, because we have to bring back some of those highlights and make this part of the image a bit brighter. Create a stamp, pressing Shift, Control, Alt, and E. Again, we will use that shortcut. And I'll turn this into a smart object and go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects, and this is up to your own preferences. I want to have some light here, so I'll make this a bit bigger, and I'll use an intensity of about 13. Make it just a bit bigger because I have some shadows that I don't like there. Increase the focus. So let's say before and after. You can see we add more light here. If you want less contrast, you can decrease the material slider, drag it to the left. I want to have more contrast, so I'll leave it here. And I want to have some more highlights there on the cloud, so I'll increase the gloss here. Not too much though. Maybe it's too much, we'll see. Let's click OK. In Photoshop CS6 you have a really big preview window, and it's a lot easier than in CS5 and previous versions, but you can see I'm burning the highlights too much here, so I'll go back to the filter setting and let's set the gloss to 0 and see what we get. Well, it's still too much, but it looks a bit better. And well, this is a before and after using the light effects, the lighting effects filter. And well, you can further adjust this using levels if you want to, or curves if you want to brighten the midtones and add more contrast on the shadows. But I kind of like how it looks. So well, that's how I made this scene. If you want more details, look at the text version, which is already on my website. Thanks for watching, and see you on my next tutorial.